The night began like any other, quiet, almost uneventful. But for Barron Trump, the teenager who had spent years avoiding the spotlight, it would quickly spiral into something no one could have predicted. Known for his low-key nature and reserved demeanor, Barron had always been the one member of the Trump family who managed to keep a distance from the media frenzy. But tonight, the quiet teenager was about to make a move that would send shockwaves through the media world. A popular liberal talk show, hosted by one of the most provocative figures in the industry, had just crossed the line. Barron's name, uttered with malicious intent, without evidence, and filled with venom, became the center of a storm. The host, famous for tearing down conservative icons with sharp, cutting words, had just unleashed a tirade of accusations against Barron. He painted him as a puppet, an unwilling participant in a dangerous political game. But it was more than just words. This was personal. It was an attack on Barron's character, his identity, and his very future. And what made it even more shocking? Barron Trump was about to fight back in a way no one had ever expected. This wasn't just about defending a name or a reputation. This was about the young man who had quietly watched from the sidelines, stepping into the fight and taking a stand. The world watched in stunned silence as Barron made a move that no one saw coming. He was suing. But that was just the beginning. What followed next would leave everyone, friends, foes, and the media, questioning everything they thought they knew about Barron Trump. The unexpected had arrived, and the calm, composed teenager was about to change the narrative. What happened next would stun the world, and no one could have predicted it. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. The case against the popular liberal talk show host, known for his fiery rhetoric, was about to unfold, and no one was prepared for the dramatic turn of events that was about to unfold. Barron Trump, the son of a former president, had always been a shadow figure in the public eye. Rarely seen, rarely heard, he had become something of an enigma until now. The lawsuit was a bold move, one that few had expected. Barron wasn't someone who courted controversy. He had spent his life staying out of the public's prying eyes, preferring the quiet solace of his family's private world. But when the host of the liberal talk show made a series of shocking comments about Barron's character, accusing him of being involved in dangerous political conspiracies, something in Barron snapped. The comments were nothing short of defamatory. The host, in his signature snarky tone, had suggested that Barron was a puppet of his father's political agenda, an unthinking, impressionable young man with a hidden agenda. It wasn't the first time a member of the Trump family had been the target of the media's harsh scrutiny. But Barron wasn't like his father, Donald Trump, whose fiery responses to criticism had become legendary. Barron was different. His silence, his quiet composure, had always been his shield. And now, it was about to become his weapon. With his legal team by his side, Barron filed a lawsuit against the show, accusing the host of defamation and character assassination. Legal experts were stunned by the move. Barron wasn't the type to take public stands. He wasn't someone who'd throw around accusations in the media. But he had had enough. The public, eager for the latest scandal, watched in awe as Barron's legal team presented their case. The courtroom was packed, cameras flashing as Barron entered with his head held high, exuding a calm authority that defied his youth. His response to the host's outrageous claims was simple, but powerful. "You've crossed a line," Barron said, his voice steady as he addressed the media. "This is about more than just my name. This is about truth." Throughout the proceedings, Barron remained composed. His calm was unnerving to the opposing side. When the talk show host took the stand, hoping to defend his provocative statements, Barron didn't react with anger. He didn't shout or demand an apology. Instead, he sat silently, watching the host squirm under the weight of his own words. The host, known for his bravado, now found himself on the defensive, attempting to justify the baseless accusations he had made. Barron, in contrast, answered questions with dignity, his responses measured and thoughtful. "I may not have chosen to live my life in the public eye," Barron said in one of his statements. "But that doesn't mean I don't deserve the same respect as anyone else." The courtroom was captivated by Barron's maturity. It was a stark contrast to the show host's theatrics, his attempts to dominate the proceedings with provocative statements and dramatic gestures. But Barron wasn't intimidated. He had no need for grandstanding. The real turning point came when Barron, after days of legal wrangling, decided to address the court directly. He had been silent for so long, an observer in his own life, but now, with his reputation on the line, Barron took control. "We live in a world where truth is often twisted and manipulated," he said, his voice low and steady. "But I will not let anyone tell me who I am or try to define me by the words of others. I stand here today not just for myself, but for anyone who's ever had their character questioned without reason." Barron's words echoed through the courtroom. It was as if a weight had been lifted. The talk show host, who had spent the entire case playing the role of the provocateur, was now completely disarmed. His bravado faltered, and for the first time, it was clear that Barron had won the room. The media, who had once gleefully stoked the flames of the controversy, were now left with nothing but silence. Barron had emerged from the shadows, not with rage or defiance, but with quiet strength. And as the days passed, it became clear that the lawsuit wasn't just a personal victory, it was a message to the world. Barron Trump, the young man who had remained a mystery for so long, had shown the world that he wasn't just a bystander in the political theater. He was his own person, capable of standing up for what was right even when the odds were against him. The case against the talk show host ended in a resounding victory for Barron. The host, once untouchable, was forced to issue a public apology, acknowledging the harm caused by his reckless words. Barron's reputation was restored, but more importantly, he had taken control of his narrative. The media, once so quick to dismiss him, now had no choice but to respect him. In the end, Barron Trump proved that even in the face of adversity, a calm and composed mind could win the day. The tension in the courtroom had reached a boiling point. The air was thick with anticipation as Barron Trump sat calmly at the defendant's table, his eyes fixed on the talk show host who had, just weeks earlier, painted him as a villain. But this was no longer about the accusations, the media frenzy, or the personal attacks. It was about something deeper. Barron had grown beyond the boundaries of a teenager trying to escape the weight of his father's legacy. This moment was his, a turning point that would reshape his life forever. As the final phase of the trial unfolded, the courtroom was filled with a palpable sense of expectation. The host, once so brash and confident in his accusations, now found himself struggling under the intense scrutiny of the legal process. His defense was weak, built on nothing but baseless claims and exaggerated statements. Barron, however, remained silent, his gaze unwavering. He hadn't spoken much throughout the trial, but when he did, it was always with precision, his words laced with a quiet strength that belied his youth. But this time, Barron would deliver a statement that would change everything. As the final witness for the defense took the stand, it was clear that the case was coming to a close. Barron's legal team had presented their case flawlessly, leaving the opposition with little room to maneuver. The host's arrogance, once so evident, was now replaced with unease. It was clear that Barron had not only fought back, but had outsmarted him at every turn. The judge, an experienced jurist, turned to Barron. The courtroom fell silent as Barron stood, his eyes scanning the room, before he addressed the judge directly. "Your Honor," he began, his voice steady, "I've learned a lot during this process. Not just about the law, but about the power of truth. We live in a world where words can be twisted and reputations can be destroyed in an instant. But in the end, we all have the ability to control our own story." His voice carried across the room, each word hanging in the air like a declaration. The host, now visibly flustered, shot Barron a look of disdain, but Barron didn't flinch. Instead, he continued, "What I've learned is that the truth can never be silenced. And no matter how loud the voices get, no matter how many falsehoods are spread, the truth will always prevail." There was a long pause. Barron's words had cut through the room with surgical precision. It wasn't just the power of his statement, it was the fact that, for the first time, Barron had found his voice. The young man, once overshadowed by the noise of his family's political drama, had spoken not just for himself, but for everyone who had ever been wronged by the media. It was a revelation. Barron Trump wasn't just the quiet son of a famous family, he was a force to be reckoned with. The host, who had once hoped to ride the wave of controversy to greater fame, was now on the back foot. His defense had crumbled, and Barron's quiet strength had shattered the carefully constructed narrative that had once threatened to define him. The climax came when the judge rendered the verdict. "The court finds in favor of the plaintiff," the judge announced, his voice ringing through the room. Barron's legal team erupted in quiet cheers, but Barron remained composed, his face betraying no emotion. He had won, but it wasn't about the victory. It was about the message. The host was ordered to pay a significant sum in damages and issue a public apology to Barron Trump for the harm caused by his defamatory remarks. But for Barron, the real victory wasn't in the court's ruling. It was in the silence that followed. The silence was deafening. The host, who had built his career on sensationalism and controversy, now stood before a courtroom that had seen through his lies. The media, once eager to continue their vilification of Barron, now had to pause and reconsider their approach. Barron had done something no one thought possible. He had turned the tables, showing the world that there was more to him than the headlines. He had faced the storm and emerged stronger, not by fighting fire with fire, but by standing firm in the face of adversity. Barron's statement in the aftermath of the trial would go down as one of the most powerful moments in recent memory. He stood before the cameras, addressing the world not with anger, but with wisdom. "The truth is a powerful thing," he said, his voice calm and measured. "And it's a power that can never be taken away." His words resonated with millions. Barron Trump, once the quiet teenager hidden away in the shadow of his family, had become a symbol of resilience, truth, and the quiet strength that can move mountains. The aftermath was nothing short of revolutionary. The media, who had once portrayed Barron as an afterthought, now had no choice but to respect him. His legal victory was a turning point not just in his life, but in the way the public perceived him. Barron Trump had stepped into the spotlight, not as a product of his father's fame, but as a young man who had found his voice and used it to stand up for himself. And as for the talk show host, his career would never be the same. Barron had shown him and the world that the truth is stronger than any narrative the media tries to sell. And in that silence, Barron Trump had rewritten the story. The world was watching, and the message was clear. No matter how loud the world gets, the truth will always have the final word. As the dust settled and the courtroom doors closed, Barron Trump stood there not just as the son of a former president, but as a young man who had found his voice in a world that often tried to silence him. The media, once so quick to dismiss him, now had no choice but to reckon with the reality of his quiet strength. Barron wasn't just a teenager caught in the crossfire of politics and celebrity. He had become a symbol of resilience, of standing firm in the face of adversity, and above all, of the power of truth. The victory in the courtroom was more than just a legal win. It was a declaration that no matter how loud the noise gets, the truth will always rise above it. Barron had taken a stand not with anger, but with quiet determination. His actions spoke louder than any words could. His response to the media's relentless attacks wasn't to become bitter or vengeful, but to take the high road and show the world that personal integrity was more powerful than any headline or controversy. The final moments of the trial were more than just the end of a legal battle. They were a call to action. A call to anyone who has ever been misjudged, misunderstood, or unfairly attacked. Barron Trump had proven that the truth, even in the face of the most vicious lies, could not be obscured forever. And in doing so, he had become an unexpected role model for millions. His story wasn't just about one teenager taking on a media giant. It was about standing up for what's right, even when the odds seem insurmountable. Barron had shown the world that, no matter who you are or where you come from, you have the power to shape your own narrative. You don't have to be loud to be heard. You don't have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes, the greatest strength lies in remaining calm, composed, and unwavering in your principles. Barron's message was simple, yet profound. Stay true to yourself. Even when the world tries to define you, the world would remember Barron Trump, not just as the quiet son of a political dynasty, but as a man who had found his own path, defined by honor, integrity, and the courage to speak out when others would have remained silent. His victory wasn't just a legal one. It was a victory for truth, for decency, and for the belief that no matter how difficult the journey, it's always worth it to stand for what's right. As the media turned its attention elsewhere, Barron's actions continued to ripple through the world. His quiet courage had inspired millions to take a step back, evaluate their own lives, and ask themselves, are we living in accordance with our own values? Are we standing up for the truth, even when it's hard? Barron Trump had shown that it's not about how loud you shout, it's about how steadfastly you hold to your principles when the world around you is crumbling. He didn't let the noise of the world drown out his sense of self. He didn't let the pressure of public opinion sway him from doing what he knew was right. And that, more than any courtroom victory, is the lesson Barron Trump left behind. The real victory wasn't in the legal settlement. It was in the strength of character that Barron demonstrated when the world expected him to break. It was in the decision to fight for what's right, not because he needed to prove anything to anyone, but because he knew it was the right thing to do. The ripple effects of Barron's courage would continue long after the trial had ended. His message was clear: live with integrity, stay true to yourself, and always, always stand up for the truth. Because in the end, the truth is the most powerful weapon anyone can possess. Barron Trump had become a beacon of hope for those who felt voiceless, a reminder that no matter your circumstances, no matter how small you may feel in the face of the world's noise, you have the power to make a difference. His journey had only just begun, and the world was watching, waiting for what he would do next. The question now was not whether Barron Trump would continue to defy expectations. It was what we, the audience, would do with the inspiration he had given us. Barron had shown us that even in our darkest moments, we have a choice to let the noise define us, or to rise above it and become the person we are meant to be. It was time for all of us to step up, to find our own voices, and to stand up for the truth no matter what.